Welcome to the HR Data Labs podcast, now part of the Work Defined Podcast Network. Join us as we explore the vital role of compensation, strategy, data, and people analytics in navigating today's complex business world. With the resources of Work Defined, we're now bringing you deeper insights and actionable ideas from top experts. Now, here is your host, David Turetsky. Hello and welcome to the HR Data Labs podcast. I'm your host, David Turetsky, and I have a really cool guest with us today. He is the man who's at the pulse of what's going on in the world of innovation from my former and most wonderful employer, ADP, Oz Khan from ADP Ventures. Oz, how are you?
Good to see you, David. I'm really well.
Well, welcome. So, Oz, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, a little bit about your background as well. Tell us all about ADP Ventures.
Sure. I've lived at the intersect of business and technology pretty much throughout my career. Spent time in financial services, consumer tech, have had a few roles at ADP. Prior to leading ADP Ventures, I led product strategy here at ADP. And I think I'd say I've spent the last decade in HR tech. So I think it lends itself well to what we do today. And I'll talk about that with regards to ADP Ventures. So we're ADP's innovation arm. And what that means is we run into distinct work streams. One is the corporate venture capital arm of ADP, which we're just invest and partner with a lot of cutting edge HR tech startups. And the other part of it is the product lab or the ventures incubator, where we build new product and technology for ADP as experiments. And if the experiments work, we scale them up into real businesses. And so pleasure to be here today.
Pleasure to have you. Now, during my time at ADP, that was the Chelsea lab as well as the Pasadena lab. Is that still true?
It's evolved since then, but yes, those are the origins.
Well, I got to tell you, I spent a lot of time at both. Actually did a couple of the ADP analyst briefings in both. And there were really cool spaces. And there were a lot of really neat people that I ran into in both of those places. So it was almost like a really cool campus. Now, obviously, if anybody's ever been to Roseland, New Jersey, which is ADP's campus, as well as Alpharetta and a few other places, you know that all of them are cool. And ADP's full of cool people. But to me, that was kind of the crux of where innovation was really happening. Now, if you had talked to, at the time, Carlos would have told you, innovation happens in every ADP associate. And I'm sure Maria carries that forward today.
Exactly. And those spaces since then have evolved because they've become mainstream clusters for ADP products in general, right?
Yeah.
And so the labs team is now distributed and sprinkled across a number of places at ADP, including Brazil and New York City. But those spaces, they've kind of become the products that they were incubating at the time. So
yeah,
it's great to see these grassroots efforts evolve and become very, very scaled large businesses.
Yeah, and I'm really proud of them too, because it's been from when I was there, I had actually been a part of that action from 2014. It was actually cool seeing it from that perspective as well. So, but that's why I have gray hair. So what we ask each of our guests on the HR Data Labs podcast is, what's one fun thing that no one knows about you?
That no one knows about me. I can't say there are a lot of things that no one knows about me. So there's like,
you're an open book is what you're saying. You're an open book.
I'm pretty much an open book, right? Like I like to talk about things that I like to do, even if they're slightly unconventional, right? I come from a very traditional Pakistani immigrant background, and the whole idea of like going scuba diving or being into racing cars that might kill you is just like completely insane to my parents and extended family. But you are who you are, and you do what you like to do. And so I do like to talk about these things here and there, and so people hear about it. But I do sometimes get like, I didn't think that you were that guy, because I can also be a bit of a homebody, which is actually that.
There you go.
Yeah, nobody knows that. I'm extremely social, super well connected, but I'm actually a homebody. If you left me to my own devices, I would just cherish being at home.
There you go. That's fine. I mean, we've had other people like Holger Mueller. Yeah. He would say, "Oh yeah, I was a Olympic volleyball player, beach volleyball player." I mean, everybody who knows Holger would say, "Okay, well that kind of tracks." But I didn't know that about him. So that's pretty good. That's actually a good one. We don't actually have a lot of people who say that, but That was a good one. Thanks, Oz. So,
Not
what
at
we're going to
all.
do now is let's transition into our topic because this is a really cool topic. And it's one, as I said before, that are near and dear to a lot of where people are hoping and thinking that the world of HR technology goes, which
Right.
is HR is really kind of moving forward, and HR technology is moving forward with a lot of the shifts in technology. We're going to talk about the impact of those shifts in technology and get into it deeper right after this.
The BARF. Breaking news, acquisitions, research, funding. It's the week that was. It's a wonderful way to catch up on the week that was the week prior, kind of a John Oliver-esque type of show. Ryan and I pitch each other's stories. We laugh. It's fun. You can watch it on YouTube, but you can also subscribe to the podcast. Give it a listen. Give it a look. Thanks.
So, Oz, let's zoom out and talk about what's actually changing in HR tech now. I mean, you've gone to the HR technology show many times. I have too. It's always been, what's the latest and greatest? And now it's all about what's going on in the world of AI. But what feels structural versus just another product cycle?
I think the structural reality now is we've moved away from theory, right? There was a lot of, hey, we have AI for this, we have agents for that.
Right.
I think a lot of that has started to converge into the operating reality of like, okay, so if I need to do A, B, and C, how is AI going to help me with regards to that, right? Are you are you going to provide assistance, or are you actually going to go do workflows for me? And
Right.
so it becomes not just being a feature cycle, but an entire workflow redesign, right? Um, and what that means is essentially you're going from this notion of providing assistance to actually doing actions. And the wave that we've just seen is like a whole bunch of like, let us assist you with this. Let us provide
Right.
intelligence about A, B, and C. Let us, give you insights into this workflow or find errors for you and so on and so forth. That is now morphing into let us go do A, B, and C for you,
Right.
right? If you give me instruction from an AI standpoint, then let me go and carry out that instruction. So essentially, like when you start to touch workflows, that's when this whole thing starts to become real, and that's what I think the HR buyer is now discerning. If this thing that I'm purchasing is going to do what I think it is going to do, so is that going to automate a whole bunch of workflows that require time, effort, and energy from my team?
Right.
Are my recruiters going to be able to source more or
Right.
be more efficient with a greater number of recs? Or are we just more thoughtful about the opening slate of candidates, right? And so
Yeah.
those are the questions people are asking themselves with investing in the next sort of like set of tools that are coming out from everyone.
Yeah. And for the past 20 years in the HR technology space, we've been laggards in this because what we've heard from the HR practitioner and the payroll practitioner has been very practical, which is don't move my cheese. It works, things happen, it's good. Don't mess with what's there. Because if you do, and these are practitioners that have been doing this for decades, they say, what's this value that you're trying to bring over stability, steady, and works?
Right.
So, can you talk about, because you mentioned a lot about actually getting in and doing some of these steps. And I guess the question is, it's like the Henry Ford example. Are we just trying to build a better horse? Or is there something that people are asking from this?
Right. Well, I think you have to go back to the shift co-pilot to control tower, right?
Mm,
Um, and when basically AI sits within workflows, it helps you make micro decisions, right?
right.
Which would have consumed time, effort, and energy, right? And so the the net effect of it is it's not convenience. It's essentially, like a completely new way of doing work, if you will. And so that leads to even more questions about, and I don't think you know, we're sort of at the beginning stages of this play. I mean, you always say that you're
Yeah.
at the beginning stage. You're never really at the crescendo, if you will, because things evolve, right?
Right.
But if you think about where this goes, I think that entire routing layer of logic, decision making, tasks where you put things in, is going to transform. And is it going to be at the platform level, at the enterprise level, or is it going to be with point solutions? I don't think the jury's out quite
Yeah.
yet.
Right.
But what people we hear a lot about is like there is some fatigue about like, too much choice, right? You
Right.
go to a restaurant and the menu is 25 pages long. How do you even decide what you want to eat? Right. And the same thing starting to happening in the,
Well,
there's
that's
been
the
such
problem,
a,
Oz. They don't.
right,
There's one
right.
thing that they go for every single time, and that's it.
That's it. That's it. But, you also have the other extreme where you have like, you know, 10 different point solutions installed, alongside a system of record.
Right.
And it's just sort of like,
The best of breed example.
right, exactly. And so the whole, best of breed versus consolidated system thing,
Right.
is going to, I think it's going to be addressed with this to some degree. I think this whole connectivity of data, APIs, MCPs, essentially connecting software, and even making point solutions work better together is going to, um, be pretty transformational. So when I encourage our teams to think about this, I always say like, you have to put yourself in the consumer, on the consumer,
Right.
not the consumer, the
Right. No,
buyer's shoes,
yeah.
the
Buyer.
consumer of your product shoes,
Right.
where it's like I have a job to be done. I have several jobs to be done, right? And can I do them efficiently without, noise on my team? And what are my mission objectives as HR? My mission objectives as HR is to keep my company compliant, is to avoid any sort of risk, because
Right.
risk is the first. I mean, I think obviously enabling from a people standpoint is absolutely massive, but if you think of the must-have, the bottom foundational layer of HR, it's like I'm going to keep my CEO out of trouble, right? And
Right.
that
And I'm going to
starts
stay
with,
out of jail too. That's the other
right.
thing.
Yeah, I don't want to go that far, but yes, you could
Well,
just, trouble jail. You
right.
you
But
you,
we
you pick
know,
it.
though, Oz, that there are certain circumstances, especially in Europe, where this could lead to, or problems could lead to jail. So
That's right.
it's not unheard of that I've heard from CHROs as well as business leaders. If this goes wrong, it's bad for me.
Yeah,
Keep me out of jail. Literally, keep me out of jail. And and obviously, I'm being a little bit flippant here because that's a very edge case. But with all the regulations that come up, with all of the, not just the new EU directive on pay transparency, but we dealt with it 10 years ago with GDPR as well, and other things. Staying at the razor's edge of compliance is that other thing that these people are
yeah,
literally sleepless about.
that's right.
And it's another thing they have to do. So that's another opportunity, right?
It's a complete opportunity, right? Um, I think where compliance gets very challenging is when you think about the network and web of regulations, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they overlap, sometimes they contradict, sometimes they layer together. So it's not
Right.
as simple as just sort of like taking, the rule books and essentially having AI and just all the legislation
Right.
out there, and then it's like it's gonna magically tell you what to do and what not to do.
And then hallucinate and you go to
And then
jail.
hallucinate and be like, oh, I saw that precedent in that other thing, and so
Yeah,
that precedent I'm going to apply to this one. And meanwhile, you got the wrong answer, right?
exactly.
So if you ask the question, it's like, well, why isn't all the compliance stuff already automated? Isn't AI so ahead? Well, because what we're describing
Yeah.
requires complete precision,
Yeah.
which almost makes it deterministic, right?
Yes.
Deterministic stuff is not easy to do. Generative wasn't
Especially
easy
with all
until
the
very, very
operating,
recently, right?
especially with all the operating environments that these people have to deal with. Whether
That's
it's
right.
California versus Colorado or California versus Kathmandu, there's no way that one person or one group could keep it straight without actually hiring an ADP. Sorry for the commercial message, but hiring an ADP who actually have experts to do that.
That's right. Or think about, the reality of so many companies these days where, you'll have like 100, 200 employees, but then you'll have 10 people in Mexico.
Exactly. Or one
Uh,
person, even worse.
or one person in Mexico and 25 in France.
Yeah.
And stitching that together is not a simple thing, right?
It's not cheap either.
It's not. No,
And
it's not. It's not.
and
But you make
sometimes,
those business decisions because there's an ROI to having that operating makeup,
right,
right?
right,
Um,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so the challenge that the HR leader or practitioner has is to make it work, right? And to make it work, there's a, again, vast menu of options. And I think where buyers probably want a ton of help is just, again, automated systems that see these things, that have checks and balances built in them. If you do this,
Right,
if you set compensation at this level, if you hire this person in this demographic, you don't have a
right.
business registration or something, like, here's all the stuff that you need to do. Those are things that keep you out of trouble. And that alone is such a vast field
Oh yeah.
for us, everybody else in our domain, leveraging AI or not, to
Right.
continue to solve.
Let's go to the second question, because I think we're going to start to evolve the conversation around just exactly what you were just talking about, which is what changes when AI moves from productivity tools to decision engines inside of something like a payroll or workforce planning or workforce management system.
I think the thing that changes is it starts with insights, right? I think the insights for an extremely experienced user can be value added and checks and balances, but not everyone is that, right?
Yeah.
There's life cycles to practitioners, right? To someone for someone to learn an entirely new system, or to come in as a newbie to a particular domain in HR. um it was an extensively long period of time to train someone up, to watch and look for all these things that we just described. That so I'm starting with the problems. The second problem was, is the amount of time that practitioners sink into finding the cracks, finding the things that went through the cracks, like what went wrong,
Right.
or what do we have? We're going to do A, B, and C. What do we have to look out for? Or what were the anomalies with regards to payroll, and so on and so forth. And and those fundamental things start to get solved with explainability, and automation with AI. That starts to change, right? And that goes back to the whole control tower approach that I talked about, where
Yep.
it's like,
Yep.
shifting from co-pilot to control tower, where it's actually like helping you direct actions, helping you
But
direct errors, if you will.
but 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 Oz, one of the key things in that is trust, right? The person who's the operator, who is the pilot in that case, to your, with your example, they have to trust that the tower knows all of the things and they can't be dreaming stuff up. They also have to trust that the data that's in that payroll or HR system is being done now, obvious because this is ADP we're talking about here underlying this. They trust ADP, but now when you introduce the concepts of artificial intelligence, how can it trust that, especially with its most precious resources and the data around those precious resources?
I can't speak for other organizations, but I can hypothesize, and I can tell you what our approach has been at ADP. We've taken much more time in installing and developing and standing up said systems, exactly because of what
Sure.
you described,
Yeah.
right? If you're going to have your customers basically trust your brand, to give them what you're describing as the right answer, then you have to do a lot of work to ensure that you've trained it up. And
Yep.
this is why AI is easy and AI is hard. And what do I mean by that? AI is easy if you want a point of view from AI, right? Based on the knowledge that it's hoovered over all the data libraries and what have you, and
Right.
what it can put together. It's generative, right? It predicts what the next word is,
Exactly.
through neural networks. it will offer you a point of view. If you are inexperienced, there's a high likelihood that you will be led astray by that point of view. If you're highly experienced, you see this in the workforce as well, right? Like your more experienced developers are more valuable. Your more experienced practitioners all of a sudden become more valuable because their judgment and their experience still supersedes whatever generic AI might come up with, right? And so in that mode, it's okay, but you don't do that in an enterprise setting because no enterprise provider with liability and revenue and brand standing is going to risk any of that with for answers that might be half baked. So then you shift over to the other side. If you want it to be really, really well baked so that you could give those answers to a junior practitioner, or you could give those answers to even a senior practitioner and have them recognize as this is the right thing to do, this was the right action to take, and so on and so forth, or these are the right regulations and this is the right interpretation of like CCPA or something like that. That requires work. You have to grind down AI, right? It's not just, it doesn't come out of a box. You have to think about, if anybody has kids, think about how much work goes into educating and teaching your kids. Hey, don't jump on the ped. Don't jump on the ped goes to, sit properly at the dinner tables
Or call 911. Yeah.
or call 911, right? And you have to do the same thing with AI. You just
Right.
have to give it guardrails, parameters. You have to
Sure.
teach it, train it. And so that's when you actually get to a level of high fidelity. And so coming back to your question, um, to have that trust, I think you have to dig deep into whoever's giving you the AI. Like, where did this come from? Right? How did you guys train your models? What are the guardrails? How
Right.
embedded is this? Right? Because by the way, right now it's almost like AI is sitting at that layer above hard systems, right? It's not imagining workflows. When it does something, it calls an existing
Yep.
workflow that was deterministically coded by a human being at some point,
Right.
right? So we're not at the point where it's doing everything. It's just sitting on top right now.
I think this is kind of the same old story, like when we went from paper to computers, right? And there was that buzz around, well, computers are going to take everybody's jobs eventually. And we said, no, it's just a tool for the people who had been using it for a while. And everybody said, well, there were those pundits who said, well, no, it's going to take everybody's job. And then same way, we have people who are very smart or supposedly are very smart saying 20% of the entire workforce or 40% of the workforce, the white collar workforce, is going to be replaced by artificial intelligence in 3 years. And I look at that and I go, why are they saying this stupid stuff? I mean, whether it's true or not, first of all, we're definitely not there yet, unless they know something that none of us know. But then everybody who's on our side gets spun up like crazy of, what am I going to do? I'm 59 years old. I need to retire soon, but I can't. What am I going to do? And then we start seeing Amazons and the others. Sorry, Amazon. We start seeing all these companies who start firing people left and right and going, oh, we're going to use AI. And then all just, later on, they're like, well, no, we were kidding. We're going to hire them back because we made a mistake, because we know we need a human in the machine, right? We know we need the human making that, to your point, they need to make that last mile decision. If I was talking about package delivery, that last mile decision that takes the input and insight, makes them a supercharger, makes them like have an exoskeleton. If they were a runner and they needed that exoskeleton to give them that extra boost. To me, that's where this is all getting really out of control. And we're hopeful that the employees and the workers are not scared away, because they are the IP that without them, organizations are going to start falling apart if they think that AI is going to be able to do this work soon.
And
I
I
know that was
agree.
a diatribe, Oz, but
No, it's a good it's really the right thought for this period of time, because I think you can read a lot into the moves that have been made by certain players on the
yeah,
market. Um, while it might be painted as a, hey, productivity came or we're going to force it, it's not necessarily the reality, right? These were things done in order to create, in my opinion, margin to
Right.
go invest in certain things, and they were dressed in a different way. And so we're not at a point, or where I think people are getting displaced. Yes, there is data, which, actually was co-produced by ADP's research institute, alongside the Stanford
Data
lab.
cloud.
Um, and yeah, from Data Cloud. Yeah, that's right. That's part of your past. Yeah, go Data Cloud. Um, where we saw that entry level software engineering hiring was flattening,
Mm.
or like, it took a statistically significant dip, which, I can't recall the exact number off the top of my head, but you can go look up the charts and you'll see it.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the signals that have people concerned, that how does entry level fit into this,
Yeah.
right? I think if you know a craft, you know a domain, you're able to practice it well, your judgment is priceless right now. Whether you're a software engineer, whether you're an accountant, whether you're an HR practitioner, it's super valuable, because that judgment is what drives companies forward, right? Generative AI has no judgment, right? It
Well,
predicts.
it does. That's the problem. It fakes it very
It
well.
makes it very well. It's prediction. It's basically like generative prediction. It's almost
Yeah.
like, of all the patterns that I've learned, let me predict another pattern.
Right.
People
Exactly.
fall people fall into the trap of thinking, oh, that's logic. That's such a good
Yeah.
valid opinion.
Well, it's got so
Whereas,
much data behind it. It's got to
right,
be right.
right, right. Um, always take it with a grain of salt. It's valuable as insight, right? But the way you should look at it is, unless, like, it's an LLM that's been created and deployed in an enterprise setting, trained on specific data and guardrails, you should take it as just, an opinion, right? As
Yeah.
opposed to fact, right?
Just like you were talking to a valued consultant who
That's right.
has an opinion on something, you're going to listen to them or not based on your specific thought processes around this and whether or not they really know you well enough. They may not, but we don't just do what consultants tell us to. I'm a consultant and people just don't follow what I say. They take it with a grain of salt. They look at what they have to deal with and they go, well, he's right. Can I convince my leadership to do what he says? And if the answer is no, hopefully that's where we go with AI.
Yes, yes. Um, I think the thing that has people worried is that, because it's felt that it's replacing micro judgment, then the time sink required for thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of instances of micro judgments goes down, which is what a lot of entry level white collar work is
Right.
centered around. And that's where the concern is. And so the concern is, like, so if those micro judgments go down, um, is there another high judgment profession that people can move into? Because what computers did was they unlocked a ton of productivity.
Right.
You could do more, you could process more, you could manufacture more, you could track more.
Right.
Um, and I think the AI optimist camp basically says you're going to be able to do more the same way with AI, and therefore it is going to create more productivity. There might be a jobs demographic shift, right? Like, you heard Ford say, um, we can't hire enough people with six-figure salaries, right? Because, and so maybe that speaks to labor imbalance.
Yeah.
Um, and so these are economic cycles that, like, humanity has braved since the Bronze Age. So
Right.
we'll see what the AI AI age brings.
And it might change behaviors of how children and their parents are making investment decisions on secondary education and higher education. Because
Correct.
if going to a vocational college or vocational school, high school, is a better investment to be a plumber and electrician, where there's going to be a lot more need for both of those given AI and given how electronics are built into everything we do. Plumbers as much as electricians because of the amount of water that's used by artificial intelligence engines. Um, but this could have a major. You talked about the demographic shifts because of the what and how many years of experience. we may not see many people going into computer science anymore in college because if they don't have any experience, they're not going to get hired. And you can't just dream up experience by being out of
Right.
school for 3 years. So let me go a different direction.
Or the nature of computer science programs changes, right?
Maybe, yes.
When you think about very, very scaled technology teams that are working with AI, um, Spotify just said their top engineers are not writing code. Even
Mm,
at ADP Ventures, some of our top people they're not necessarily writing code. They're
right,
overseeing code.
right.
They're overseeing the production of code,
Yep,
and making sure that it's rightly done. So I think this one's tricky, right? Because I think
yep,
you need to understand the um the music, right? You need to be able to read a music sheet, but the skills are more important to be a holistic thinker. Like you understand the business problem, almost like a product manager, right?
yes,
You understand what the issue you're trying to solve is, or what you're trying to write, or what you're trying to orchestrate.
right,
Because AI is not, until you have AGI, AI is not going to do that. That's a completely different topic, which I
yes. We'll get
just
that. We'll do that in
totally
the next
avoid. Right.
podcast.
But until that happens, like, generative AI is not going to be a substitute for any of it.
But let's talk now in the third question about where the money's going, because that's even more important for right now. Where are founders and investors not only investing in, but what are they underestimating in the world of HR tech?
I think what founders generally underestimate is two things. One is the complexity of the enterprise, and number two is how hard distribution is. And what I mean by that, so if you want me to double click on number one, complexity of
Yep,
the enterprise is almost like, you're not in HR tech, you're not selling features, you're selling trust, right? Um, Back to the point that we were making before. So if you're
right,
selling trust, that means things are expected to work outside the box. Things are expected to be black and white with 0 degree of variance, and you're expected to solve the problem that you sold,
right,
without creating integration complexity, without the CIO losing their mind trying to install their tool,
yeah,
without procurement getting mad at you, without all those
good luck,
things, right? You have to manage so many different stakeholders to get into enterprise, and those sales
right,
cycles are long, right? Um, and then if you go like, okay, so if I want to avoid those sales cycles, let me go down market. Let me start in the SMB space, and let me start in the mid market space.
right,
Um, Great. Who are you going to sell to? Tech
right,
companies. Great. All right. Well, tech companies are going to absorb your product in a very specific way because they're tech companies. They will have a tech forward approach to it. They will experiment, adapt. If they don't like
right,
it, they'll churn in like 4 months,
right,
right? Whereas same size of company, you go into a traditional industry, they'll evaluate you for like 4 or 5 months, or like even a year, to make sure that they don't churn out in 4 or 5 months.
right.
And so the distribution scale and muscle that you need in order to go through company by company, build brand recognition, and
Right.
break out past the traditional tech company buyer stage is going to be extremely painful. And so those are the two pitfalls that I see even AI native companies run into.
I think there's another one that strikes me from what you were just saying, which is you had mentioned before that the technology company who's trying to buy into this says, well, the problem is in the box and I understand it and nobody's going to vary. And what's really funny is, especially when I worked at ADP, we always heard people say, well, I'm the most unique company in the industry. So we can't look at what other people in my industry do because I'm unique. They all have very unique backgrounds, or at least they think they're unique. You can
Right.
abstract away some language, but they think they're unique, and in some cases they are. So if you bring a box and everything's black and white, they're going to say, "Well, I want this one to be chartreuse. I want this one to be a little olive, and I want that to be a little gray." And if it ain't black and white, it ain't fitting. And so, and I used to hear this all the time, Oz, when I was dealing with the compensation product, and we had to make it as configurable as it could possibly be, because nobody does comp the same way in two companies, even if they're in the same industry. There's history. Bob did it that way, and Bob was doing this for 40 years, and we like what Bob did. So I guess my question back to you is, how do how do founders and investors, how do they figure out the level of creativity and flexibility that's needed to invest in, so the box isn't black and white and it's not just one box, and they don't get caught in this, we're going to go here and then go here. They try and do whatever they can based on the flexibility of the box. Do they even recognize that right now?
The right founders basically have a decent art, even if they don't. I've seen founders that are not from said industries that learn it, and I've seen founders that are from industry and already see it. The really, really strong ones actually know what they will be able to get away with not having
Hmm.
in the early days for a certain number of clients, right? Like, so if you think about your trajectory, right? Like, you want to get to $1 million in ARR as quickly as possible.
Right.
Getting companies to pay you $1 million.
Yeah.
That basically says you've IP, right? Um, and we can talk about the value of $1 million in an era where
Right.
billions and trillions are being poured into AI, but it is a
Yeah.
very real thing for an early stage company, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so the people that pay you your first $1 million are going to look a lot like the people that are going to pay you your next 2, 3, probably, 4. But then the ones that pay you your fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth may start to look very, very different,
Right.
right? And so the strongest founders know that they're going to have to deal with catering to the 5, 6, 7.
Right.
And so the way they build their products, they build them around very, very strong, you know, 3 or 4 color boxes in the analogy that you just used,
Right.
that have high value, that are acceptable for that first tranche of clients that will put up with not having some of those other things. But when you do become a product with scale, you start to run into knockouts based on edge cases, right? And so if there's a thought that, oh, if you just build a very strong core and a bunch of other things, we're going to be good.
Right.
You're going to scale. If you're going to want to become, like a 9-figure revenue company, you're going to run into edge cases. You're going to have to write code
Absolutely.
for every single one of them. The good news is, with AI dev tools, your software development lifecycle can be a lot shorter. Your
Right.
problem solving can be a lot quicker. So all of it becomes about, how do you get revenue in, i.e., how do you sell?
Right.
How do you manage roadmaps? So manage the burn to
Yep.
to develop the right feature set, and how you balance those two equations. And then in the middle of that, you've got all the craziness of building a team, finding investors,
Operationalizing it as well.
operationalizing the whole thing. Exactly. And so it's also very industry dependent, right?
Yep.
The type of founder that I was just talking about was, again, more your HR tech founder, if you
Yep.
will, who are more likely to listen to this podcast. Um,
Or
and that,
or actually host it. But yeah.
That's right. Not that Simon Altman wouldn't, but I hope he would. But when you think about AI infrastructure companies,
Yeah.
their their game is a bit similar, but also very different, right? So when you have a dev tool that can be democratized very, very quickly, then you have a cursor-like situation where you go straight into the hundreds of millions in a year. But if you're actually doing AI for the enterprise, i.e., you're getting past security, you're getting
Right.
past all the checks and balances, you're sitting at the infra layer. It's a slog. It's it's a full contact sport in the octagon.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah,
Or it's a hockey game. It's not a 20-minute game, which is one period. It's a 60-minute game, and there are those intermissions are really those growth stages you were talking about before, of getting the first million and getting the 5 to 7 and then getting beyond that. And how much of those founders and the investors the same when it's the 1 million versus the 5 to 7 versus beyond? Usually it's different people because it's
yeah,
different growth stages, right?
that's right.
And for those people listening, this is a fascinating conversation. And especially if you're buying these technologies, it's a good thing to understand and recognize the fact that they're trying to solve your business problem. And they're trying to do it, as Oz was saying, in the most agile way possible with everything that's going on in the world, as agile as possible. it's cool to watch. Really cool to watch. I mean, it's cool to be a part of it, but it's a little hair. I mean, I've lost a lot of my hair because of that, but it's also really cool to watch. How did you keep your hair so cool throughout all of this? Is this just good genetics or?
I can tell you there's some missing back here.
You didn't need to say that, dude. No one's going to look back there. We can't
Just
get
lean
that
into the
aerial
positive.
view.
Lean into the positive.
Okay, okay.
So
Glass half
again,
full, even though we know it's empty. But yeah,
well,
okay.
you can't do my job without being a glass half full person, right?
Right, of
Like
course.
I think you have to have a high degree of intellectual curiosity and optimism, which is probably genetic, right? Back to
Yeah,
what you said. I think for me, it's always like every problem is a new Rubik's cube to be solved, and
yeah, yeah,
this is certainly a very complex and interesting one, which has so many trade-offs in terms of how you solve it, right? And
yeah,
so
yeah.
it really, really goes back to managing the problem that you're trying to solve versus the speed at which you're building, right?
Well,
Because you can solve it in a very robust way, and you're
yeah,
so
yeah.
slow, you miss the market, you miss the opportunity, you run out of cash, and that's it.
But here's the beautiful thing for you. You've got how many employers? 40 million? No, that's 40 million employees. You've got millions of employers that count on you and your company. And these, hopefully, these investments you're making, or at least the products that are graduating, have proven out that they have value to somebody in that, in that million. And to me, that's just an incredible place to be, to kind of see the adoption across a million employers, to be able to create something from scratch, or create something, or at least see something in somebody, invest in them, and see it graduate and see it actually become something really cool and really impactful.
That's really the highlight and the positive proof points that we've seen doing this.
Yeah,
I think the thing that we're most proud about in ADP Ventures is that all of our efforts have not been science experiments. They've had real tangible business outcomes. So the
sure.
things that we've graduated into the businesses, they collectively generate over nine figures in revenue to
Amazing.
ADP today. The Some of the investments that we made in companies like Naya is installed with you know thousands and thousands of our clients with millions of workers that get their benefits decisions
Right.
really, really curated as part of what Naya does. And we recently invested in an AI company called Emma. We're going to be leveraging a lot of their tech in places where it makes sense, where we wouldn't want to build. We will deploy Emma, which is an agentic platform, and so we'll see that pop up and so many different workflows that affect the lives of millions of workers. So again,
Right.
the scale at ADP is really awesome. No, the thing is, like, with that level of scale, as I described, you have to do a ton of pre-work to make
Oh,
sure
yeah.
that it's robust, it's
Right.
bulletproof, it's secure, it's
Yeah.
something that we, the ADP brand, can back. And then once you have that, you've got that business synergy, then it's the hockey stick.
But also, and I'm going to give a shout out to Jane Smith in professional services. Sometimes it's not tech. Sometimes it's people that are part of ventures. Now, Jane Smith was part of a venture that got promoted. Her professional services group got promoted into national accounts. They solve problems that clients have by putting people
That's right.
into client organizations to help them solve problems. So it doesn't have to be a tech problem. It could be a people problem. And that's the beauty of being able to solve problems, whether or not they actually have a technology piece of them. So, sorry, just a shout out to
Yeah,
Jane.
no, I love it. It's a completely multifaceted.
Oz, it's been a pleasure having you. I have to have you back on. There's so many other things we can talk about in this ecosphere of being able to invest in the front line of HR technology, and how it will impact the employer and the employee and the managers, because they are dealing with so much right now, and so much is coming at them, and so much noise, that I'm sure we could come up with 100 different ways of being able to talk about that.
Absolutely. So and also so much more to come, right?
Oh yeah.
We didn't even get into some of the wild stuff coming out with OpenClaw and bots that facilitate everything.
Oh, yeah. Well, we could have an entire episode on just bots, because you made a great point before about how if you just stick a bot in a workflow, it may not have the kind of response from your clients that you might have wished. But I'm going to leave that. Let's leave that off to the
Yeah,
side.
as this one matures and it
Yeah,
evolves, I'm sure we can get back to it and talk more about it. It's been a pleasure.
absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise.
And thank you all for listening. Take care and stay safe. Thank you for listening to the HR Data Labs podcast. Don't forget to hit subscribe and share it with your network. You can also check out the recordings on Spotify or the HR channel, now on Roku and Fire TV. Thank you, take care, and stay safe.
I get it. The podcast just isn't enough. That's all right. Head over to your favorite social app, search up Work Defined, WRK Defined, and connect with us.